Welcome back, I'm Tedward, and welcome to the all-new 2026 Dodge Charger RT 4-door. This is not electric. They have put the Hurricane inline-6 3-liter twin-turbo engine into this car, which we've already driven as the 2-door Scat Pack, but this, as the RT, is the volume seller, slightly less power. This is making 420 horsepower, 468 pound-feet of torque. And when Dodge made the Charger full electric, well, people revolted and they wanted their V8s back. But they gave us the inline-6. But I do think a V8 is in our future. But the RT is an important car because the base model, the lower trim, the less powerful version, needs to hit the mark because this is the one that you're gonna see most on the road. Its starting price is $49,995. This one, as tested, is about 63 grand because it has the performance options with the big Brembos. That definitely does the job. This one's all filthy because I have been enjoying myself on some snowy, dirty New England roads today. But one of the cool things about the 4-door Charger is that it is essentially the same car as the 2-door Charger. You just get better access to these rear seats. It's hard to believe when you stand near these cars that they are the same, and you get a ton of space in these rear seats. And now with the 4-door, you get access to them because the 2-door is a little tricky to get in and out of. Now, let's be courteous to the car. Reasonable space back here. There's a lot of room actually for me. I'm about 5'9", and we've got the leatherette and suede, so it locks me in just fine. I've also got 3 stages of heated seats in the rear on the outboards, and we've got USB-C charging, HVAC, all the things we're gonna need back here for a long trip. Cup holders, goody. All right. The other thing is that this has a ton of cargo space because you're able to put down that 60/40 split all the way down. You have this massive hatch that opens up, and this is gonna be incredible for long trips. This is gonna be incredible for loading the whole family with all the bags, tons of stuff. Or if you are like me and you transport your bike places, I'm a cyclist, I like to just keep it in the car because then when I pull over at a rest stop, I'm not worried about someone coming and stealing my bike off of my bike rack. I don't have to lock it up. It's just locked in the car, and I can lock it in the car with all of this stuff. Where is the button for this now? Oh, there we go. And it is nice that that's all power, sometimes a little exaggerated. Style-wise, we already know what this looks like. We've seen it in the battery electric version, but I do love all the lighting design. And this thing is just starting to grow on me in such a strange way. I really wasn't so sure about it. I love how it's, frameless doors and all that kind of stuff. But, the real headliner of this thing is just that you're gonna have an inline-6 with 2 turbos and not an electric motor. It's kind of impressive that they managed to make this all work, and I'm really excited to see how they package a V8 when that inevitably comes. They haven't said that to me, but look, I don't think it's a crazy prediction to make. But there it is, and this is just making a bit less. So instead of 550, you're getting 420, and the test today is to find out if this 6-pack is a bummer or if it's gonna be a stunner. I mean, I don't know. I think 420 horsepower goes a long way, but you gotta remember, this behemoth weighs about 5,000 pounds. I think it's 4816, but hey, we put a couple people in there. We're definitely hitting that mark. Gluing us to the road on a 20-inch wheel is a 275 section tire all around. When you go into a Scat Pack, you can opt for staggered setups and things. So you can get a 325 in the back for the faster version of the car. But, this thing hooks up pretty darn good. But here's one of the great things about this car. It's standard all-wheel drive. However, you can hit a button and make it rear-wheel drive. So this all-wheel drive system can couple and decouple, and it varies between sport mode and wet mode. When you're in the snow mode, it's a 50-50 split. When you're in sport mode, it can send up to 100% to the rear. Usually it's between 70 and 100% to the rear. But you can put it in rear-wheel drive mode, which allows you to do some drifts, to do line lock if you have it available. And it just makes the car a lot more versatile. So if you're bumming out that you've lost your rear-wheel drive car, well, you haven't, because this thing still does the job and it'll be all-wheel drive when you need to climb up the snowy hill. Now, I do wish this had like regular door handles. They've kind of gone to a mix of regular switches and buttons. Buttons are never my favorite, but they've done such a good job of making this feel like a pretty special interior. This one has the leatherette and micro suede and the high back seats. They look really good. They're power adjustable and rather comfy. And then there's a ton of ambient lighting. You can change this to 64 different colors, and it does feel pretty special, but it should, because you are paying for it. So this really does need to do that job. Pistol grip shifter, I think it feels a little improved since the Scat Pack that I first got in back at the Tail of the Dragon, 6 months ago. And I think this could do with a little better feel. The bummer is that you get an 8-speed automatic only, no manual option, but hey, we can dream and maybe they will deliver. Unlike the Scat Pack, this does not have a dual mode exhaust, but still sounds okay and gets the job done. When we get into reverse, we get a look at our 360 camera. I am going to back out of this so you can watch that with me. But the camera system on this is actually quite nice, and we can change our view to the front, to the rear. This is actually a really good system, and I'm impressed because, I don't know that they owed us a camera this good, and I'm glad they gave it to us. This infotainment system has, in the past, been a little laggy to me in the Scat Pack 2-door that I drove, but I think that was a really early production model, and it's possible they worked out those kinks. I haven't really run into any troubles with this today. So anyway, let's get out and see how it drives and make some noise, because that's what Dodge is all about. Let's put it in sport mode. Do a little 0 to 60 out here. See what she does off the line. Brake boost it a little bit. Now, Dodge claims a 4.6 second 0 to 60 for the RT. And it does feel pretty potent, especially because the way this Hurricane inline 6 twin turbo is set up for the RT, it's more torque heavy. So it's got more torque than it does horsepower, whereas in the Scat Pack, it's got more horsepower than it does torque. So it changes the character just a little bit. And despite this being the less powerful version, it certainly feels plenty powerful. This has enough juice. This is the entry-level version of the car, and it is not slow. Engaging with these paddle shifters right now, and I do wish they were a little bigger. They're only about this big. They're just this top, portion of this side. So it's not the whole side of the steering wheel, and they're buried a little bit. So I just wish those were a little bigger. I want to have like a more entertaining engagement point when I'm shifting, and I don't want to have to wonder if I'm even in the right spot. They feel distinctly different than the rest of what's below them because there's some buttons down there for radio controls and such, but it's not a great feeling. They're very plasticky. So, for an interior that has so much energy and effort put into its premium appearance, I am a little surprised at that touch point and the shifter touch point. I just think this could be a little more solid, and it would go a long way in just making this feel a little more premium. Now, what's funny about being in Vermont is that I got traffic behind me. I'll be going a very healthy dose above the speed limit and still being like tailgated by a Tundra who's normally going 85 on this on this road to get to wherever they're going. If I press and hold that plus paddle, it brings me back into drive, so I won't hit that rev limiter if I do decide to get a little out of sorts. Ride quality, it is definitely a sporty vehicle. Give him a little flyby. He works for Dodge, so he's happy. Ashton's a good guy. Ride quality, I definitely feel this. I'm interacting with the road, but it is not not jarring me at all. It's tight, and like this suspension has to play a game here where it needs to support nearly 5,000 pounds of car, but it also needs to be compliant and reasonable for normal people. Sure, it's a muscle car. Sure, it has some performance stats, and it's designed to get you around a corner and have a little fun. But this is a daily driver, especially as an RT, and that means that it's got to do a lot of things at the same time. And there's going to be compromises. So one of those compromises is just that, it's not the most supple suspension, but it's supple enough that it's not jarring me over the little bumps. So we'll give it that. Occasionally, cars of this weight end up suffering from problems where they end up being too stiff, and you hit little bumps like this, and you just feel it translate all through the cabin. So I think this has done a pretty good job. It's a reasonably responsive transmission. It's not going to trick you into thinking it's a DCT though, so don't expect lightning fast shifts on this thing. It's definitely tuned to give you a crisp, fast upshift. It feels like a dragster in that sense, where it's like the tuning energy went into making sure that it was going to hit that next gear hard, fast, and get you moving, rather than giving you the ultra snappy fast downshifts, because it's not giving me ultra snappy fast downshifts. But when you feel those upshifts, you're like, okay, I understand its intended purpose is to keep things moving forward. That is the most Vermont car we could possibly find. An old Volvo 240. Is it a DL? I wonder if that's a diesel. He's actually sending it, because I barely had to slow down. So that's full steam ahead for that Volvo. Forget warming it up. That cast iron block has been through it. I'm well beyond that car. There's no reason for that to be beeping at me for the blind spot monitoring, but that's okay. We'll accept. Look at these beautiful mountains out in there. This is really less underpowered than I anticipated. I didn't think it was going to be underpowered, but I thought there would be a remarkable difference that I would think, man, can't wait to get back in the Scat Pack with the high output, and this is just a treat. This actually really goes. Everything else about the car is telling me tactility, but the steering is where I just want a little more feel. I want a little more feedback from this steering. But just when that steering starts to upset me, I get out onto a highway and I'm like, okay, now it kind of makes sense, because now it's relaxed. Now I don't have all these little micro vibrations happening through my fingertips while I'm just cruising on the highway at 75, 80 miles an hour. And then it becomes a little more luxurious. And I think that's what this thing does. It kind of mixes that sportiness with a bit of luxury. Like it's a place where it's at home in so many places. You can stack it full of people and go on a long drive. You're going to be just fine. You can also bring it out to a little handling course and have a good time. I don't think you're going to use it as your track car. Consumables would probably set you back a pretty penny if you are trying to keep up with tires and brakes on this thing. But I guess we are going up here. So let's see, can I make that? I can make that. It's fun to put it into a corner. It's fun to hit that throttle. It's fun to feel this transmission shift at redline. And I think that's what they were going for, and they achieved that. I think some of the compromises come down to how does this transmission behave on like a downshift, because it's definitely tuned to go forward. How does it behave at kind of mid to moderate speeds? It can be slightly more clunky, but nothing to write home about. And I feel like the steering just could use a little more tactility. But overall, like, this is a fun car to drive. And maybe it doesn't have the V8 yet, but I gotta say, even at its lowest horsepower, at 420 instead of the 550 in the Scat Pack, it's plenty. I'm legitimately not wanting for more. I do not feel like I have been neutered. I feel like I can still just send this thing to the moon anywhere and anytime I want to. I will say, unashamedly, I miss real gauges. I miss having like a nice sweeping needle over a bespoke font that Dodge or whoever took painstaking hours to decide which was going to represent the car. Digital displays can give you a lot of information, and I know that we live in a pretty competitive world, and maybe the public at large prefers this. I don't, but I'm not the public at large. I think they've done a pretty reasonable job, though. I think it looks good. I think it suits the car. I just wish I could have known what they would have done if they had a tack and a speedo and a couple extra gauges in the middle. Where would they have gone with it? What would it have looked like? It's getting a little bouncy on this road. I think we're maybe paying a little bit of penalty in the suspension for the weight. All right, we're settled back out. Let's settle in and set cruise control. We do have some driving assist, so it is doing some steering for me. And one of the things I like about that, you'll see it just went orange because it knows I'm not touching the wheel. I can just rest my hand, I can just touch the wheel, and it knows I'm back. Unlike other driving assists like my Civic Type R from Honda, I have to add some force to the rack to let it know I'm there. Whereas this one, all I need to do is rest my hand on the wheel. That's some premium stuff. I really appreciate that, because I would not normally drive by nudging a car to let me know it's there. I would simply just touch the wheel. Gotta be a little gentle on your brush of the brake. They're not too sensitive, but you do have to think about it just a touch. Once you get used to them, they're fantastic to modulate. This all-wheel drive system, it's pretty seamless. It's really good at figuring out how much torque to put in the front. It's just allowing me to hook up and always have grip. Just so impressed with these upshifts. Frost heaves. This road is kind of a mean test of the suspension, because look, watch. We're hitting some nasty stuff. It's getting a little bit bouncy. It's still composed, but it's definitely not supple luxury, but it's never sending a strut through the tower. It's never making me feel like I'm gonna lose a tooth. I'm gonna bite my tongue. So I like this because it commits to the bit of being a sports car, a sporty car. But at the same time, it's still luxurious enough to do the daily duty, be a great highway cruiser, and you put your kids in the back and they're not going to be bouncing too much. But for sure, they wanted this thing to be able to go around a corner. So as we finish up this video, putting it through a bit of a suspension stress test, actually NVH has settled down. Yes, we heard a couple little things, but also remember, we started this morning at like 5 or 10 degrees Fahrenheit. It was very cold. This is all holding together. I'm not hearing anything nasty, and this is a mean road for a car like this. If it was gonna act up, it'd be acting up right now. I think the RT is more impressive than it kind of has any business being. It's more sporty than it has any business being. I thought they were going to position this so much further below the Scat Pack. So when I saw the price, that this is starting only about $5,000 lower than the Scat Pack, I thought, well, that's kind of strange. Why wouldn't you just spend the extra $5,000 to get the Scat Pack to get like the much, much better car? But really, this maybe is only $5,000 off of that in terms of its performance because of the power. I'm really impressed with the way this thing kind of turned out. I wish the steering was a little more communicative. I wish I could get a little more feedback from that. But, you know, say what you will about the weight, it manages it pretty okay. What I'm curious about is consumables, because I'd love to know what the actual, tire life is on these vehicles from owners going forward, just because when you're kind of working with a 5,000 pound car, that can eat some tires, and alignment really starts to matter at that point. But it's going to be your call what you think is worth the money, because $50,000 or $49,995 is still not a small sum, and it puts you in the running with some serious contenders, and some serious contenders on the used market. Also, who knows what depreciation is going to be like with these? They're going to make a lot of them. This is going to be the volume seller as the RT. So maybe it behooves you, if you're trying to be financially savvy, to wait. But the good news is, for somebody who's waiting for this car, who wanted this car and didn't want the electric Daytona, there's so many options for customizable personal touches on these cars, and that's always a thing that's fun about Stellantis and about the Dodge brand. I mean, you can get stickers, you can get colors, you can get little things that change the personality of car, even though there's a million of them on the road. And it's nice to be able to look at yours and know that it is yours. So anyway, thanks to Dodge for bringing me up to Vermont and New Hampshire to test out their new RT version of the Charger. I can't wait till they put a V8 in this thing. That's going to be a ton of fun. But for now, this Hurricane 3-liter twin-turbo inline-six is just kind of doing the trick, and it's an impressive powertrain. It's not every day that you get an all-wheel drive car that can disconnect the front axle and has a line lock to do big smoky burnouts. I mean, it's like the coolest thing in the world. So yeah, that'll do it. I'd recommend driving them back to back and see, to me, this power is completely suitable and fine, and I don't feel like I'm really missing out. But you may feel a different way. Thank you so much for watching, liking, commenting, and subscribing. Don't forget to respect the drive, and I'll see you in the next one. Need to knock down this heated steering wheel. It has 3 stages, which is kind of impressive, but it is genuinely warm, like too warm. Holy cow.